there's so much that happens where people get into sales and they want to be successful. They're just not. And there's things that get in their way. And for me, the book is Selling with Authentic Persuasion. The subtitle is important too, which is Transform from Order Taker to Quota Breaker. Because in all of the hundreds and hundreds of salespeople I've seen come and unfortunately go, a lot of times people, they don't want to manipulate. They don't want to do classic sales tactics because they don't like that. And they don't want to cross that line into the, like the dark side, if you will. And so what happens, they go to the other extreme and they do nothing and hope people buy. Yet there's a fantastic center part where people could sell and persuade like a professional and embrace that and be highly effective at moving people forward. And that's where I think most people should be at. And that's what the world needs, is that kind of salesperson.
No, I totally agreed. I'm glad. I love the subtitle, because that's kind of always one of the things, you know, especially if I am in a grumpy mood, as a sales leader, you know, you're having a bad month and you're, come on, man, we're not a bunch of order takers. Let's go. Let's go out and get it. You know, you got to make the phones ring. You don't want to wait for the phones to ring. You know, what do you see as the biggest struggle for somebody getting into sales? You know, the rookie mistakes that you see classically when you go out and in your training companies.
I would say, oh, I don't know. I don't know how I could limit it down to however long the show is going to be. You know, I think the biggest one is that a lot of people who enter into sales have this opinion that sales is about having conversations. It's about building relationships, talking about some rapport, some small talk, talking about the game last night, and then getting people to move forward and just doing this dance in a conversation. And what they're missing is, yes, that's important, but you have to have a system, you have to have a process, you have to have something that's repeatable that you can do over and over again. And I'll tell you, the way I can always test people on this is when I say the word script. Like, I think a script is super important. I think it's so necessary, especially if you're new. Follow my script. Don't tell me how you think you could do better. Don't try to ad lib, no freestyling. Follow my script and do this until you've got your system down. But most people in sales, they just think, hey, let me do what I do best, right? That's what I always hear. And it's like, no, if you were doing what you did best, you'd be amazing, but you need a system and then you can get there.
I actually had written down a script as one of the questions I want to talk to you about, so we can stay on that. Now, when it comes to scripts, I'm also a huge proponent of scripts. Now, do you recommend that they write out a script for every situation or scenario? I know there's some common themes, or people have certain ways. You know, I'm a believer, and you can disagree with me or agree, that you should have a voicemail script or several. That you should have a follow-up script. You should have a final proposal script, right? So some loose guidelines for whatever situation you're in, that you've already had the ability to practice them, so you don't kind of go in with not having talking points and leading them down the right type of path.
Yeah, 100% agree. Because one of the worst case scenarios that happens when you don't have a script, even if we just take voicemails, for example, is you get done leaving your voicemail and it was a rambling hot mess and you didn't get your point across, and maybe you forgot some stuff that you want to talk about that was important, and it's just not going to be an effective one. Really, from a business leader standpoint, sales leader standpoint, as you know, one of the things is consistent results. I see people do that all the time where they'll leave voicemails, and you in a day they'll leave 50 voicemails 50 different ways, and then they'll get a call back and it was like, okay, which one was that? Oh, I don't remember. Okay, how are you going to do that tomorrow where you leave 50 of those and you get 20 calls back because you did it a certain way? Like, it's trying to make a cake and baking in the kitchen without a recipe. And then it works. Hey, I made 10 cakes, 9 failed, 1 worked. What'd you do? I have no idea because I wasn't following a recipe. Yet salespeople just want to bake on the fly and just make stuff up, which, again, once you're a master, you don't need a recipe because you've got it. But I completely feel that you should script everything. Your intro, the transitions are super important. How are you going to get from like, okay, I've uncovered your pain, to now let's talk about what I do as a service?
Sure.
You know, those transitions, instead of just winging it. All of your questions. You can't script life and a conversation, but you can have all of it scripted, ready to go, and then pull out what you need to.
Yeah, and I think you hit it right on the head. The transitions are really important because what happens is, you know, like I was actually just in a meeting today at noon, right, with one of my reps, and we sat down, and you start talking about life. And so it's having the ability to have something to come back to. That's important to have the rapport building. It's important to learn about their family, their likes and dislikes, but you have to stay on course with an objective of where we're going. And so I think that a script provides a foundation of keeping you with the target in mind. And without that, it's kind of like I talk about this every once in a while with my guys. Is that one of my first sales managers? That song, "A Friend in Me" by Randy Newman, that's in Toy Story, right?
Yep.
Like if he caught you sitting at your desk and over there just shooting the shit for 30 minutes, and you didn't have ask for the sale and there was no talking about business, he would start playing that song. Like, you're not here to make friends, right? Like, so, if you heard that song come on, you knew that you'd fucked up somewhere. Uh,
I love it. That's so awesome.
so I was, trying to teach my guys, it's important to make the connection, but you always have to keep on track, and having a script, I think, helps you kind of stay on course with the end result, and that's helping them.
And what I'll say too is, as a highly evolved sales leader, which I know you can detect this as well because you have that skill, is I also look at it where I'm listening to somebody live in, let's say, on a phone call with a prospective customer, and they're 30 minutes in and they haven't talked about business and they're still talking about rapport. Sometimes that's what it takes. Sometimes that's still a valuable conversation if they're going to get to the finish line anyway. I mean, I used to work in sales organizations where if you closed 2 deals a day, you were on par. That was a good day. If you closed more than 2, like, you're a rock star. But if you did that every day, you closed 2 deals a day, that was great. And it was mostly inbound, so it wasn't super hard for the right people. But if you closed 2, if it took you 2 phone calls to close 2 deals and each phone call was 2 hours long, that's a home run day, man. Good job.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how you get, but I know the rep could do it, and I know they're still in control, even if it doesn't look like it. It's the ones like you're talking about where a half hour goes by, they're talking about recipes and restaurants and sports. And you're like, dude, are you even on any path yet? And that's where it really goes wrong.